Before we get into today's show, I was thinking about the NFC South and how the Bucs are going to be horrendous this year. And then I was remembering last year when Grady Jarrett was called for one of the most BS roughing the passer calls against Tom Brady. So if you remember that play and you think that call was BS, then like today's video to start the show. What's going on, Falcons fans? Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here with a bit of a primer for mandatory minicamp. So that kicks off tomorrow and it runs through the 15th, so June 13th to June 15th. And I wanted to get you guys some of the biggest storylines, names, and things to watch and listen for as we get through the last off-season practice until training camp rolls around. So my first of 5 storylines to keep an eye on for is we have some punt return tryouts. Unfortunately, after Avery Williams tore his ACL during OTAs, we do have a vacant starting spot as a returner. He was penciled in as the punt returner for this season, and we have a bit of an update on who will be competing for that punt return job. So, some notable names and then some very new names. Bijan Robinson was seen at OTAs doing some punt return tryouts practices. Okay, I'll give you my thoughts on that in just a moment. Carlos Washington, UDFA running back. Khalane Harris, wide receiver, along with Zay Malone, and then D. Alford. So I'm going to give a hard no and not even going to think about the idea of Bijan Robinson returning or fielding punts. That just seems like an injury waiting to happen to a key player, and Twitter is going to dunk and clown on the Falcons for putting their top 10 pick in harm's way as a punt returner to maybe get 7 or 8 yards and a good return. If I had to predict who the Falcons punt returner will be, I don't think they're on this team's roster right now. I think Atlanta will be closely monitoring the waiver wire, and they're going to look to see for a team to release a wide receiver or a return specialist because they didn't have enough room, and Atlanta does have a spot because there's not a whole lot of locks in the wide receiver room, and that's probably going to be your return man. So, unfortunately, if you don't remember, there's not going to be like a 90 to 80 man cut down, then 80 to 75 or something. It just goes from 90 to 53 this year with kind of cuts sprinkled in as at teams' leisure, but you're not going to see a steady round of cuts leading up to the 53-man roster day. So keep an eye on Atlanta to be active in the waiver wire and pick up a speedy wide receiver. Before we get to the rest of our mini camp headlines to watch for here, I saw a comment on a previous video that I wanted to bring up and address because freedom of speech here at Falcons Today. We're not the Soviet Union. And Mark P. ATL commented on a previous video saying, "We need a new reporter for the Falcons. This PD guy is so pessimistic. Ritter will be fine, sir. You stay hating on dude." And I think it's a fair point, maybe not replacing me because I like my job, but about me being a bit critical, maybe being a bit too harsh and tough on Desmond Ritter, because I have definitely been one of the more louder critics out there, and I'm not just going to blindly assume Desmond Ritter is going to be this team's franchise quarterback because, let's be honest, it's a much more life in fantasy. Well, not fantasy, that's me being pessimistic, but it's a much better life to live in if you believe that Desmond Ritter is going to be this QB1 and be the next Matt Ryan, if you will, franchise quarterback for years and years. And here's my stance. I think fairly, too, I have some reason to be a hesitant buyer in or believer on Desmond Ritter for 2023 because I've only seen him play 4 games, and he wasn't spectacular in those 4 games, but he definitely wasn't bad, right? Desmond Ritter, I don't know what your expectations were, but he definitely had some good moments, and he definitely showed a lot to believe in moving forward, but it's only been 4 games. It's not a very big sample size. Now, I can admit when I am wrong, and we'll get to that point when the season rolls around if Desmond Ritter is an MVP frontrunner or even something half of that. But I am wanting to start a Be Nice Desmond Ritter campaign, right? So with that being said, who was the Falcons quarterback when you first became a fan? Was it Matt Ryan? Can you dig a little bit deeper? Let me know who the Falcons quarterback was when you first became a fan. We're starting a Be Nice to Desmond Ritter campaign. So, first thing I wanted to be nice to Desmond Ritter about, he was engaged at the young age of 18. I like that in my franchise quarterback, right? He's not going out to the bars and he's not getting drunk and wasted on Saturday before game day. He's at home. He's a family guy. You'd rather him, have his life under control and not be getting lemon pepper wings at some of ATL's finest establishments. So I like that in Desmond Ridder. Be nice to Desmond, PD. Talking to myself. We'll kick that off going forward here on the show. Moving on to our second mini camp storyline here. Taquan Graham. Get some good sightings here. So Michael Rothstein, who covers the team for ESPN, tweeted out, good news for Atlanta. Taquan Graham back at practice for the first time publicly since his knee injury last year. Now, Graham last year started out the gate and 34 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. Ultimately went down in the second half of the season in the Bears game, along with Kyle Pitts, unfortunately. And he was a pretty solid player, I would say, on that defensive line. But his job has now been taken over. David Onyemata was signed in free agency, and you have Calais Campbell as well. So Graham now looks to be a rotation member on this defensive line, and that's fine. I mean, without even looking it up, Grady Jarrett probably played, 65% of snaps last year. So you always have a good rotation on your defensive line, even for your top players out there. So it's good to see Graham at practice in this Falcons defensive line that showed some teeth last year, and hopefully this year it shows a lot of bark as well. Before we get to my third storyline to watch for here, our sub battle with the Vikings channel, Chat Sports, is starting to get away from us, ladies and gentlemen. They have a 100-plus, 150-ish sub lead. The Falcons and the Vikings may not be rivals on the field, but we are rivals here at Chat Sports because me, producer Nick Roloff, and Patrick Seatman from Vikings Now all walk to and from work, and we always kind of just put casual jabs at one another over our Falcons and Vikings channel. So help us take down Patrick Seatman and Vikings Now and subscribers. Hit that button for absolutely nothing down below. Moving on to my third mini camp storyline to watch for here. Kyle Pitts sighting potentially. We haven't talked a ton about Kyle Pitts so far this offseason because he, has not practiced this offseason, right? Suffered a season-ending knee injury in Week 11. He's not expected to participate in mini camp. Arthur Smith is not looking to rush anyone back, but we could maybe get a potential sighting. You never quite know if his knee feels way better one morning compared to the previous one. But this is what Arthur Smith had to say on Kyle Pitts, or anyone else for that matter, returning maybe on the Sooner side. We're trying to be smart. We're planning to play 20, 21 games, so you need to be ready to go. Peaking, ready to roll September 10th and play our best football at the end of the year. AKA, we will see you September 10th, Kyle Pitts. Maybe he plays in minicamp. My guess will be he starts off on the PUP list if he is not 90%, right? You can always activate someone very quickly off the PUP list. That's the physically unable to perform list. Maybe he plays in a preseason game as a bit of a tune-up, but more than likely they're going to take their time with Kyle Pitts and not rush him back way too early, and we end up seeing a former top 5 pick September 10th against the Carolina Panthers. He looks to build off last year, which was a slow start. Just never developed that, rhythm or connection with Marcus Mariota. Hopefully that changes with Desmond Ridder, which is why you might see him play in the preseason or training camp, even if he's not 110%, because they will hopefully learn their lesson from last year, which is when it comes to deep routes, and that's what you tend to use top 5 pick tight ends for, it takes some downfield chemistry with the quarterback. Never happened with Mariota. Hopefully that happens with Ridder. So vote down below. Do you think Kyle Pitts will have a breakout season, right? Will he live up to the big expectations, be a 1,000-yard receiver, get 7+ touchdowns? Yes or no? Sound off for me down in the comment section. On to our fourth headline for today, Drake London season. Yeah, I'm all for it, baby. I am here for Drake London. Just good vibes altogether. He hopped on Good Morning Football, and this is what he had to say on taking a leadership role. I think I have to take the next step. I like to lead by example, and the next step is being more vocal. I got my feet wet this season. I think I have a grasp of what's going on, and I think I can take it to the next level. Drake London, his rookie season, 866 yards and 4 touchdowns. I can see how a leader, even as a rookie, doesn't want to bite off more than they can chew and come in and be the big you-know-what in the locker room before they even play a down of football. But now Drake London has shown his teammates he's the real deal. And London, in fact, is one of my top sleepers for 2023. 866 yards as a rookie with turbulent quarterback play and a run-first offense that had two different starting QBs. Pretty good numbers, if you ask me. If things are steady and consistent, and knock on wood, Desmond Ridder is this team's starting quarterback for 17 games, and he plays awesome behind center, yeah, Drake London very well should be a 1,000-yard receiver with 4 touchdowns in his rookie season, maybe even 8 touchdowns in his sophomore year, doubles his rookie numbers. Would be very exciting stuff to see from London. Now, before we get on to the rest of our show today, great deal going on for the Dirty Birds. When you go to chatsports.com/ATL shirt combo, that link's in the comments and the description. You don't just get one shirt. You get 2 shirts, and they're 40% off. So 2 shirts on sale. You're just not going to beat this deal. So if you're looking to kind of replenish your Falcons fandom or help your closet out a little bit, go to chatsports.com/ATL shirt combo. Get that now. Links in the comments and the description of today's video. Fifth and final thing to watch for going into minicamp, offensive line, O-line depth chart here. We're going to get a better glimpse of who the starting 5 will be. It's still really early. It's only June right now. I still have Bergeron penciled in as a starting player on this offensive line, but that has not been the case so far through OTAs, right? First off, former third-round pick, Jalen Mayfield, he was working at right tackle, which is what he played in college. Remember, in his rookie season, he was the left guard. He was on IR all of last season. So now they're moving him back to where he played at Michigan coming out of college. So that is something to monitor. Matt Hennessy appears to be this team's starting left guard as of now. If there was a game tomorrow, I think he would be your starting left guard. Thing is, there's not a game tomorrow, and there's not a game until September. I think eventually Bergeron will overtake Hennessy for that starting left guard position, but Arthur Smith is probably not in the business of just handing starting roles out to rookies before they prove that they can hang with NFL talent. So a couple things right there just to watch for and keep an eye on for the Hogs up front. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, taking time out of your day, and watching today's show. We'll see everyone later.